So my name is Eva Maria Hodel. I'm the project manager for the BEready cohort. I am based at the Institute of Social and Preventive Medicine and the Multidisciplinary Center for Infectious Diseases at the University of Bern in Switzerland. BEready stands for Bern Get Ready, and it's a so-called population-based household cohort study for pandemic preparedness. We do enroll adults, children and household pets in the canton of Bern in Switzerland. The canton of Bern is geographically the largest canton and also in terms of demographic characteristics fairly representative of the whole of Switzerland. And the overall aim is to establish BEready as a so-called pandemic preparedness cohort. So that's a cohort with a well-characterized study population of households, which has the infrastructure to conduct studies about infectious diseases. And very importantly, it can be rapidly mobilized to respond to a new pandemic. So people are ready and we can ask them additional questions or ask for additional samples when the need arises. BEready aims to understand more broadly the epidemiology and transmission of infectious diseases. We have a strong focus on viral respiratory pathogens, and that's in the household. So, because we do include the pets, that's an important aspect. So it's not just within people, but also within pets. Because people and animals and also the environment are highly connected, it's really important from a pandemic preparedness point of view to really also include One Health approaches for surveillance and also the response to pandemic threats. So a lot of the things we're doing is just collecting data. One example is we're looking at travel history or social contacts they have, etc. And this kind of data helps us to also see long-term trends and serve as a kind of pre-pandemic baseline also, because that was one of the problems in Switzerland. For instance, there was no data available on social contacts people have between different age groups, which then also made it quite difficult to gauge whether certain measures like school closures would really help to bring down transmission between children and the more susceptible elderly population. And so one of the aims is, of course, to collect this pre-pandemic data. And in terms of the biological samples, we just store them at the moment. So we don't really want to do a lot of tests because we don't really know what will be important during the next pandemic. But what we know is it takes a long time to collect these samples. And that's why we also think now is the good moment to collect these and store them. And if we later on then want to see whether people, for instance, have antibodies against certain diseases, then we can always refer back to our biobank and retrieve those samples. I think an important aspect is really because humans and animals live so closely together. There may also be shared risks, for instance, for infections, but also benefits for living with animals, for immunity and the overall well-being. And therefore, this research at the human-animal interface is very important because we don't know what the next pandemic-causing pathogen is going to be. If we look back at previous and kind of ongoing pandemics, it's typically pathogens that have first been in the animal population and then at some point spilled over into humans. First, if we look at highly pathogenic avian influenza, H5N1, which already does cause, a panzootic and with fatal outcomes in birds, we also see that there are now more frequent cases in mammals, including, for instance, domestic cats. And so one concern could be, so when this virus eventually does evolve and gets transmitted from cats to humans and then between humans, that we may have another pandemic. And so we would then be able with BEready to rapidly collect key parameters to characterize the transmission dynamics within a household, so between, in that case, cats and people, but also look at antibodies, that then people may have against influenza or also in the cats. Investigate asymptomatic infections, for instance, because they don't normally get captured by any of kind of surveillance the government does. So that's something we could add. And so the hope is then, because we can rapidly collect those parameters from very early on in the pandemic, that this could then also inform policymakers on appropriate measures to take. So maybe also then to limit that kind of animal-human contact, or to make adaptations to current rules and things.